So in discussing the debt restructuring process, I think the two things that I would want to highlight is whether, particularly in terms of the domestic debt restructuring, whether it was sufficient, and secondly, whether there was fairness across creditors. So when we talk about sufficiency, it's basically debt restructuring, will it enable the country to meet the IMF debt sustainability target? Because what they have asked is that we have to bring down the debt to GDP ratio down to 95% by 2032, and secondly, to bring down the gross financing needs of the government, which is basically the amount that the government needs both to finance its deficit and its debt service payments from the current levels of about 35% down to under 13% on average over a period from 2027 to 2032. Now, whether this is going to be sufficient to achieve that is a question, because one of the premises is that the government's deficit will be in surplus from next year and then go on to a surplus of 2.3%. There is a risk in that because even currently the government has not been able to meet its revenue targets. Secondly, it's in terms of fairness. When you look at the negotiations that were conducted with the external creditors, it was conducted on basis of four principles. One is that it was a transparent process. That secondly, it was in good faith as a collaborative process. Third, that it was fair and comparable treatment across creditors. And fourthly, that there was consistency with the IMF debt service targets. Now, when you come to this thing of fairness, whether this was fair is a question, because the entire domestic restructuring has been borne by two. The central bank is bearing 1% of the reduction in the gross financing needs, and the 0.5% is basically from the provident funds. All the other creditors have not been included in this debt restructuring. But I think the main issue is really whether this is sufficient, because if we have to go for another debt restructuring, the costs are going to be high, the uncertainty is going to be high, and it's going to put the country again on another path of this whole uncertain trajectory. We must be very sure that this is once and for all debt restructuring, which will put our debt onto a sustainable path.